Still on the fence about the Switch 2? Not to worry, so am I. But there are a few games of interest that are still coming to the Switch 1 over this next year. Without further ado, let's get into a few that have piqued my interest. Starting off, we have Shadow Labyrinth, coming out next month. I've been very intrigued by the premise of this game since even before its reveal, when it was teased in the form of the Pac-Man themed episode of Amazon Prime Video's Secret Level series, which was later confirmed to be considered an official prequel. It's basically a darker and more experimental take on the arcade classic, where your character fuses with a Pac-Man-like creature called Puck to traverse through a giant maze and feed on monsters in what appears to be somewhat of a Metroidvania. Honestly, I love the concept, as it plays around enough with a beloved classic to do its own thing, while also not detracting from the original. And it makes me curious to see if Namco will give the likes of Galaga and Dig Dug similar treatment in the future if this one does well. Marvel Cosmic Invasion is yet another classic 90s beat-em-up revival that continues the trend we've seen through the likes of Streets of Rage 4 and Shredder's Revenge. As someone who is only really familiar with Marvel through the live-action movies, it's nice to see Cosmic Invasion taking more stylistic inspiration from the comics, rather than just relying on whatever's currently popular in the MCU, as the character representation and general colour vibrancy that we see here really does feel a lot more inspired as a result, and it's certainly a game that I'm keeping my eye on. Here's one I'm a little bit conflicted on, not just because it's also been confirmed for Switch 2, and will likely run better as a result, but recent news has also placed it in a similar controversy to Mario Kart World regarding its pricing. Either way, I think I actually prefer how Sonic Racing Crossworlds is looking compared to Mario Kart World, and I'm saying this as someone who is generally more Team Mario for the most part. I really like how the courses and roster are practically drawn from not just Sonic's history, but also through crossovers like Joker from Persona 5, as well as the possibility that we'll be getting SpongeBob of all things, if the leaks are anything to go by. Considering the premise of warping across dimensions mid-race, however, it kind of makes sense that we wouldn't be restricted to the Sonic universe, and I'm curious to see what other worlds we'll be seeing representation beyond Sega properties. Speaking of which, Shinobi Art of Vengeance is a much-needed return of Sega's long-running ninja platformers that we haven't seen since the 3DS entry in 2011. I've made a video going into further details that you can check out with after this one, but to sum it up, I love the art style they have going on for it, and the combat looks like it'll be really fun and satisfying to master, making it yet another step towards Sega's promise to bring back many of their dormant IP. Also might as well shout out Ninja Gaiden Rage Band while we're at it. That also looks pretty sick, and we're basically getting spoiled when it comes to ninjas this year, it seems. Here's one that many would consider the highlight of the Switch 1 Focus Direct. Tomodachi Life: Living the Dream is the heavily demanded sequel to the beloved 3DS game that sees the return of putting on Mii characters into wacky scenarios while observing how they build relationships with one another on a shared island. I imagine we'll see the return of the surreal dream sequences, and dread to see what cursed baby hybrids and Miis will spawn. That is if they do bring back marriage and children. I'm not sure if it's been explicitly confirmed, but it probably will come back if we're going to be real here. Fans have wanted to see Rhythm Heaven make its way to Switch for quite some time now, and thankfully, they don't have to invest in a Switch 2 to experience its long-awaited return. As someone who has never actually played any of the series, I'm curious to give this new one a go, depending on if there's no other games of interest releasing around the time, as I really like the quirky characters, and the premise certainly makes it one of Nintendo's more unique offerings. Yeah, I figured I'd save the best for last. Announced way back during the Switch's first year, to having struggles with development partway through its life cycle, to now being revealed to also be coming to Switch 2, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond has been long overdue, and I'm inclined to believe that the wait will be worthwhile, based on what we've been shown so far. A beautiful planet to explore, new psychic abilities that allow you to control missiles, as well as open up possibilities for some interesting puzzles, and we've got ourselves a long-awaited follow-up to some of the greatest games in Nintendo history. And I'm very much glad to see that it's still coming to the original Switch, as it gives those of us on the fence about the Switch 2 that option, which I guess is comparable to making sure Wii U owners didn't miss out on Breath of the Wild when that was a launch title for the Switch that was originally made with the Wii U in mind. Not to mention it probably would be a bit scummy if they just said, oh yeah, we're cancelling it on the Switch just to put it on the Switch 2, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. So, there we have it. Those are some games that are still headed to the Switch 1 if you're not quite sure on getting the Switch 2 just yet. Let me know in the comments if there's any in particular that I've missed, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more Nintendo coverage. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you later.